Hello and hi everyone, my name is Wolf and welcome back to Minecraft. Today we are going to start off here in the Hexarray workshop because at the end of episode 3, which if you missed was us going through the entirety of the Twilight Forest in a singular episode. I'm pretty proud of that because even though it is pretty easy to do the Twilight Forest, you know, it is quite the feat early on when you don't have a lot of power to take on all those bosses, quite the slog in a few cases. But at the end of the episode, we talked about how I got a comment at the end of episode 2, or got a comment on episode 2's video, talking about how we should make some modifications to the dripstone cave over there, how we can add a little color to it. And I thought it was a brilliant idea. The comment was by Alexander Miller, I'll throw it here on screen, and it said to add any ores that Hexarray may use. Now that would normally be gold, but gold is so precious at this point, I didn't really want to do it, plus I didn't really know how I would feel about gold being present. But another thing that Hexarray uses is selenite clusters. So I went to a jungle, grabbed a little bit of selenite, blocks of it, and then some budding selenite, which Cottage Witch allows you graciously to take with you when you have a silk touch pickaxe, as well as a little bit of budding amethyst. And look at these 3D effects on these materials. Isn't that just gorgeous? So adding a little splash of color, make it look like a natural vein split between amethyst and selenite, cutting through the center of this while still keeping the, by and large, the dripstone feel. And I don't really like having this stuff here on the floor. Maybe as time goes on I'll add a little bit more because I've got plenty of amethyst at this point. Maybe do a little bit of amethyst because I do like the sound of walking around on it, the little ding ding ding. But for now I'm gonna let this sit here and see how I like, and maybe add a little bit more. I definitely don't want to take away from the vast majority of this being deep slate, so we're going to keep that the same. But for today's episode, the reason we ran the entirety of the Twilight Forest was because I wanted to use some blocks to build with. Specifically, I wanted to use these blocks here, which are the runestone blocks you get at the final castle. Comes in 4 different colors. As you can see, they have these beautiful little runes that appear based on the X and Y and Z coordinate of wherever you place them, so they're fairly consistent. But we're going to use these today in a build. Oh, these take so long to break. There we go. But yeah, we're going to use these in a build at some point here today, but I had to do a little bit of prep work. Now, unfortunately, the reason our last episode was released a little early was because I wanted to have the opportunity to get ahead on this episode, and I got sick. For 3 days, I've been bedridden. But I did get a couple of hours away from being nauseated and being sick off my head. So I got a couple things done. Let's take a quick run through what I did while, in between episodes. In the Twilight Forest, you're going to find these mounds here. These mounds have a ton of ores inside of them, so a ton of resources. We didn't cover it last episode because it wasn't part of the progression, but it is something I've taken the time to conquer now. As we drop down here, I'm still wearing slime boots. Boom. So you can see we actually placed mage lights in every square inch of this place, making it completely mob proof, so I didn't have to worry about creepers or anything of the like. There was a bunch of spawners in here, which we collected as well. And those spawners will come into play in a little bit for the next thing that I did. But as you can see, a ton of resources still uncollected. So when it comes to iron, when it comes to coal, when it comes to copper, we are completely sitting pretty. Also a little bit of glowstone, which is nice because it's kind of a pain to collect in the nether. The next thing I did was make this horrible mess, which again, forgive me, I was feeling sick as a dog. You have to remember, I was very, very nauseated and feeling very, very much like crud. So there was a skeleton spawner, which we can hit F4 here, go to free cam. Let's see, here we crawl through here. There we go. So there was a skeleton spawner here, just a very basic skeleton grinder. Put them over here and then killed them. As you can see, we've got a few levels from that. Now, one of the things that Cottage Witch offers to you, if we go to wildlife here, we go to monsters, every 100 skeletons that you kill, you get a skeleton spawn egg. These also have a percentage of dropping every time you kill the mob. And since you can pick up spawners with Silk Touch, we went ahead and evolved this farm into something a little bit better. So if we take this waystone here to the Skelly farm, hit my head as you would expect. I break this dirt block here, I'll be able to show you what's inside. We're going to back up here and hit F4 again, and we're going to scroll down through here. So 4 of the spawners that I got, I made with skeleton eggs after getting enough skeleton eggs from the real basic farm. And then we just had this really expensive one. This one actually has a water elevator so they can push each other up and through. And as you can imagine, they go up, go across a little channel way, and then come back down. And then over here, a campfire, which as you can see, it's day 155 at this point because I've just allowed them to kind of, you know, take care of themselves on the campfire. And then over here, we've got the pipes mod. So we've got a hopper leading to the pipes mod, which we have a trash can to get rid of. Well, not get rid of, basically. Anything that isn't bones, anything isn't campfires. And over here, AFK'd. Again, not feeling well, so it was quite a while. Got a ton of bones. So bones are no longer going to be a problem. Unfortunately, this is mostly decorative. There are other ways that we can use growth either than bone meal. This isn't vanilla, and we're going to be using those methods for a lot of it over time. But for now, this will do. Something that is definitely needed for today's build, at least. And last but not least, as you can see, the skeletons over there, we aged a lot of copper as well. This is going to be important for some decorative parts of the build today. And we also cleared out this entirety of this space. As you can see, there are markers here and over there and over there. And that represents about 4 chunks. So if we hit, what is it, F3G? You can see about 4 chunks are cleared. The house does clip in a little bit. The pen does clip in a little bit here. And this tree does as well. But that's fine. For the most part, this is enough space that we can work with to build what we're going to build today. And excited to build something I am, because honestly, like, besides using prefabs or decorating a few interiors, we haven't actually built anything ourselves this time. So it's finally time, high time, I say, to actually build something that comes out of our own imagination rather than relying on somebody else's. So let's get to building. It's been several hours IRL, but the build is done. I wanted to do a little step-by-step walkthrough as I went through everything, but honestly, it just didn't feel like it was very interesting to talk about that way. It's more interesting to talk about all at once. So let's just do a little reveal together, shall we? In 3, 2, 1. Hey, look at this. I'm really happy with how this turned out. So, I mean, as you can see, there is this large blackstone platform full of different blackstone variants. And I did something interesting here, if you want to take a really good look at it, is even though it could be like just randomized and have little bits of it, I did blobs in a very Tetris style. So we got squares, we got little elbows, and we've got T's and all the different variants. A bunch of corundum crystals. As you can see, I had to go look for where conundrum was. I had to guess. But corundum crystals and amethyst clusters scattered throughout to provide some light and some actual pop of color. A faux little coffer with a whole bunch of little conundrums in there, so you can pick and choose which ones you want, with some gold for the hinges, or at least to represent hinges. An inkwell. Now, I'm a little disappointed this doesn't show up very well, but as you can see, there is ink in there. You know, if you were curious on what the ink is, yeah, it's blood. So, unfortunately, though, for whatever reason, it doesn't show up on the outside of the connected glass. Maybe it has to do with the connected glass textures don't allow it to be transparent. It does on this side for some reason. I'm not sure why that side is different than this side, but whatever, it's fine. Floating candles, because of course that's pretty mystical. We love that. And then this is what I wanted the blocks for the end of the Twilight Forest from. This is why we speed ran it, because I wanted this as like pseudo language. Like, this is a giant spell book, if you will. You can see we've got several tabs on the side keeping track of very important documents, you know, important spells and information for us. And then, of course, we have a giant quill here. I did my best to kind of do like a feathered quill. So these are supposed to be like different feathers. This is the bone in the center. And then they kind of lazily drape down on the edges. They start off with slabs because we have the ability to do slabs in this mod pack. And then we go to carpets along the outside edge with string, using the old classic vanilla trick to kind of give it some feel to it. And I actually love how this comes out. It adds, this kind of makes this feel like a desk space. And then the entire point of this, I'll show you the back here in just a second, because yes, there is a back. The back is done as well. You were wondering where the copper went. Well, that's where it went. The reason for this is because I want this to be the entrance into the farms. So if we look at the pictures here, we can see that we have the blue castle doors, also from the Twilight Forest. If we click on that, we can walk through and we come into this space here. And I'm going to put warp pads down here that'll take us down below. And we just have these chunks constantly loaded. So this is where we can generate all of our resources. I also like the idea that this one is a cake. Now, the only thing that I would say is this painting here, obviously, to those who know, is a very special painting. This is for Technoblade. And there's something, I like having it there. As a big fan of his, I like having that there, but the other side of it, it just kind of feels, it doesn't feel like it's been long enough. Kind of hard. I don't know if I should let that be there or not, but I'm leaving it for now. Probably will stay unless someone raises up in arms and says that I should get rid of that and change it to something else, but I just gonna leave it. And we're gonna move on, because if I don't move on, I'll talk about it for hours. So anyway, come to the back here. Not too bad, not too shabby. The giant book has a back, of course, and I used copper as the cover. Originally, I was going to use gold, but aside from gold being very expensive, and it did look nice, gold and mahogany together looks amazing, but at the same time, too, it's very expensive. I need the gold for other things, as we'll show in the future, but I do like the copper. The copper has a nice little feel to it, too. And these are two different scales. These are a little bit different. I could have made them exactly the same. Oh, I forgot actually the spine of the book. I'm gonna have to go back and do the spine. But the reason I had them be at different sizes like this is because I just thought the front would be a little bit bigger. Traditionally on a book, it feels like, I know they're not. It always feels that way, but it's not. And I just thought, it's fine. I'll go ahead and have this be bigger than this side here. But I do want to put a spine on that. So let me cut to do that real quick. Got everything I just said, because I went ahead and made them even. Once I got the spine in there, which I always knew I was going to do this for the spine, but I just forgot to put it in there. It makes a lot more sense now for them to be, scaled to be the same. Give a little extra room right here for that one, especially because this does go 3 across, so it's one more on this side. And then we have a little glass right here, trying to soften the curvature of this a little bit, kind of make it look like it sticks out. Maybe the leather is a little bit more loose in that space. And that's kind of the same thing that we did right here. If we look at the front of the book, you can see that we have the walls here. It goes into glass. And it's supposed to kind of simulate that there's several pages. Obviously, the tabs kind of indicate that as well. But there's several pages to the book. It gives it a lot more depth and a lot more shape. Ideally, this would be a similar color to the bone block that we have for the base page. But you know what? I don't actually mind it so much, because you do get shadows in between pages of light. Like if a really worn book, sometimes the page is a little bit more yellowed. Obviously, with the bone block, that is what we're going for, is a little bit more of a yellowed, ancient kind of tome, even though this is something that theoretically I summoned with my magic. Now the next step is to clear all of the space below those chunks, so I do got to be a little bit cautious because the skeleton spawner is down there. Might temporarily deactivate it because I have more than enough bones at this point. But in order to clear all that space, there's several ways that we could go about it. The way that I want to go about it is finding a Tinker's Workshop. Tinker's Workshop is going to give us a lot of supplies very easily, very quickly, specifically drills. And as night falls, here we are. And this should be an achievement too, if I remember correctly. It is. There we go. Now, the Tinker's Workshop is a very large building with a lot of create stuff inside of it. So if you wanted to make this your starter base or something like that, I would highly suggest it. I've done that once before. But we came here for a very... Oh, Mama Bear, please don't get mad at me. Okay. We did that for a very specific reason. In the basement, there is a ton of prefabricated shells. Now, while it is true, I am not iron poor anymore, thanks to the Twilight Forest, it can be quite a pain to fabricate that many drills, especially knowing that they're already pre-made. So let's go ahead and get down to the basement, and I'll show you what we've got. Also, in case you were curious, yes, I'm still wearing my witch's stuff, but haven't found any clear runes. Maybe I'll get lucky and find some, and then I can actually show my armor, because I still can't handle the glare. So 2 levels below, first you come through a room that looks like this, where there's a couple of cogwheels and some goodies hidden around. And then you come down over here, and this is where you got to be careful, because there are a ton of pressure plates that activate a bunch of arrow traps. As you can see, some of them are a bit on a timer. And then also, there is a spawner there with some of the Forgotten. The Forgotten are like tougher, stronger, more powerful versions of skeletons. And don't worry, I don't really care about the arrows. We have magic. We don't need arrows in this playthrough. But this can be a bit of a detriment. This can be a bit of a difficulty. And, you know, there are plenty of spawners in the world, and I'm not too fussed, not too chuffed about having the hat. So we're just going to use a little bit of ours know-how to break that. There we go, and save ourselves the trouble. And then we come down here. See the pressure plates? Everywhere. Break all those. And this is why it starts to become very much worth your time to come here. Because you have all those dispensers that are shooting the arrows. If you want the arrows, I guess you could get those as well. there's going to be, oh, I guess they got rid of all the, there used to be a bunch of redstone links underneath those pressure plates. I wonder what happened to those. But you have a bunch of bamboo. More bamboo than I can carry. Is there anything to put it down in here? There is. I'm just gonna throw those in there. Oh, goody, more. And then drills and gearboxes for days. So this is why we came here. We might even loot a second one, just because I feel pretty lazy and I don't want to make any drills if I don't have to. They exist in the world, might as well take advantage of that. And if you haven't yet, this is one of your best chances to go into the quest book under create and accept the starting quest, because they give you a wrench for free, and that wrench makes it a lot easier to pick up supplies. You don't have to waste your time breaking your pickaxes to get everything out of here. And workshop number 2. Yeah. Number 3. And the last one, because I've hit my limit. Editing the Wolfie here. Just realized I didn't bother to explain why we're going to all these places, why we were collecting all these drills. I do show you the benefits of them. Like, we do put them into use, but I don't show you why or explain why at first. So why don't we take a moment, just real quick, to give you a brief overview on drills. Don't worry, we're not going to the weeds. We're not going into detail for Create 101 just yet, but at least give you some ideas to what the heck we're doing. Create is all about rotational force or stress units, and then this is the simplest way of visualizing what that is. It is water underneath a water wheel. The water wheel turns. It turns, as you can see, the shaft is moving in a slow rotation because this is not a lot of power. And then there is a drill. And when you place something in front of the drill, it breaks those blocks. And just like a water wheel, gravity can be used to make a drill function as well. However, as you can see, this drill is just floating in space. It's because we place this one like you would any other block. And doing this does not cause it to fall. So we want to be able to make a drill subject to gravity. We needed to stop behaving like a block. And the way to do that is the minecart assembler. The minecart assembler basically allows anything that is connected to this block with glue to be an entity and no longer be a static object, not be a static block in the world. So if we were to take these things here, for example, and glue them together, on top of the assembler itself, you see that there's a sticky bit. The sticky bit allows it to be one entire entity. And if it receives redstone power, it turns into an entity. You can see it move. And now it is all connected together. And that means it can also be subjected to gravity. Well, I can't push it anymore because the switch is in the way. So future me is going to learn this setup very easily, but all of these drills are glued together. This block acting as a binder from level 1 to level 2. Since you cannot glue these directly, you have to work with some intern blocks to act as a bridge between them. And then this allowing the entire assembly to function from this top level. We do that, the whole thing will turn into an entity, which I'm not sure why it's not subjected to falling. Oh, you know what? I didn't connect these 2 blocks here. So if I connect that to that, there we go. I didn't glue the bottom blocks together. Well, other me does it much better. I'm going to take you back to the world where I actually did this already. This was supposed to be an example, and even then I failed that. So predictably, all of the drills were for this. What I wanted to do was do one chunk at a time because there are 4 chunks that we need to clear out, and we are directly underneath the skeleton spawner, which is directly underneath the book that we started the episode with to be entry into all the farms. And we want to clear all the ways down to bedrock from these 4 chunks so that we can place all of our farms together, then claim the chunks and always have them loaded whenever we're doing anything else out in the world, to make it very easy to accumulate resources. So 256, or I think is what the number is, of drills here, already glued together, as you can see, and a couple chests, which is probably going to need more space, but we'll just play this one by ear. And then the next thing that we did was lock rotation here. So as soon as this gets a redstone signal, we'll be able to send this down into the ground and see how she performs. Made a bit of a whoopsie. I forgot you actually have to connect it from the top of the assembler, but that's fine. There we go. Now it's gonna miss some spots, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I'm okay with that because for the vast majority, this is gonna take care of the problem. And we made sure to lock the rotation. Oh, okay, it looks like it's stuck. Well, that happens on occasion too. Oh, I didn't bounce. That threw me off. Where are we at? Why are we frozen? That's fine. We pick up the whole thing, and we just set it up again. Since gravity did somehow get the better of it, might as well take the opportunity to clean all this space. But part of the reason why I wanted to do this per chunk is because it can be kind of hard to orient the machine exactly where you want it to be. So by taking the entirety of the chunk, we can actually use these borders to set up right consistently where the machine is. I know that this one goes outside of the chunk. This is going to be the first one in the bottom left-hand corner of the chunk. It's always going to face this way with a locked rotation. So it makes it very easy to line this up because I can do the same on the other three without having to trying to finagle where this is supposed to be. And so there we go again. It looks like it froze yet again. Okay. All right, it broke twice, and this is what happens when you step away from a mod for a little bit. So these are going too fast. I remember because I've actually ran into this problem before before they're able to break a layer. So usually you try to double up on drills if you're going to be using gravity to do it, but we're not going to be doubling up. That's a bit much. So I think what I'm going to try and do is put a few drills strategically around, which will force it to kind of continue to work, and then the other drills won't get jammed. And I may not get 100% success rate, but as I said, it's much easier to clean it up once this is done at least the vast majority of the work. So that's going to be the current plan. Okay, let's see how this works. No. So despite my best efforts, it looks like I ended up having to craft a few. Try like 3 stacks. So now hopefully this works. Got the rotation locked. Everything's connected together. It's looking good. It's so expensive, but it's looking good. Well, it finally worked, but unfortunately we hit a lot of flooding, and instead of loading blocks and everything, that means I need to learn another spell. I'm gonna go pick up the evaporate glyph. Thankfully this is also level 1, but unfortunately I don't have any sponges, so gonna have to go grab some. Thankfully the temple isn't too far away. Now, normally this would be quite the ordeal, but again, ours is going to help us out here. We can pick up blocks and break them at range, so we're just going to float above here and shoot down into the sponge room if we can find it. The hardest part is just going to be locating the sponge room. Somehow, even this high up still got hit with debuff. Oh well. And once again, the broom is coming in handy, using it as a platform instead of actually flying on it. All we have to do is jump and fire. And the spell here is projectile, break, pickup, and pickup just puts the blocks in your inventory automatically, as you can see, and we get blocks in our hotbar. And eventually, if we keep poking enough holes like Swiss cheese, we're gonna find a sponge, a 2 or 3 eventually. I was thinking, man, this is gonna be tough. I haven't seen any sponges at all. There they are, right there, and I didn't even realize it. I only realized it once I had some in my inventory. So there you go. Easy as that. Also, it's so surprising that the Guardian can actually give me the debuff from all the way up here, but all right. I got my sponges. You did a great job defending the place. See you later. And of course, they have to be dry sponges. Normally, when you'd use evaporate, you'd want AoE or some other augmentation to increase the range of it. But what we're going to try instead, because we don't have a level 2 book, is, sorry for that, zoom in. We're going to do touch, sensitive, and evaporate. What sensitive is going to allow for touch is to affect liquids directly, and then evaporate, of course, is going to evaporate those liquids. So I'm hoping that with the touch spell and a little bit of spammage, we should be able to get rid of a lot of this water. Yeah, see, I can touch the water directly. I will run out of mana quickly, but I am actually slowly winning the fight here. So it's still going to take some time, but this is still going to be better than having to block the entire space off. So give me a minute and I'll get this space cleared out. All right, 1 of 4 done. That's not too shabby. There's some stuff to clean up there that the, I was placing blocks manually and they said, nah, we're going to use evaporate spell, but then also some that it missed. So once we get that all cleared up, ooh, diamonds, we will be all set to go for at least 1/4 of the project so far. So the machine is all cleaned, ready to go for the next go around, but unfortunately, if we pop down here, see if I can make it, there's water all about through here, right in the path of our chunk, as you can see. So I'm gonna have to clear this space out, I'm gonna have to clear that space out, and I'm thinking, you know what, that's quite enough. I think for this episode, I'm going to go ahead and do all of this off camera. You kind of see the mode of operations. You see how we're going to go about things. And yeah, this was such a headache to set up, but it does make it a lot quicker. It gets a lot of materials. I'm going to have to make more coffers just to get all the materials. I actually got to put more chests on there because it dropped quite a few things. Didn't even pick everything up. And that's going to be it for today. And then we'll get into making the actual farms next episode once we have this nice clear space to work with. So everyone, thank you very much. My name has been Wolfa, and I'll see you next time.